Today I'm bringing you a 7mm mag made by Ruger. It's an M77. Of course, that's the Mauser action with the controlled round feed. This is a friend of mine's gun. He lives in McGrath, Alaska. I live on the Kenai Peninsula, and we both moved here not knowing the other one was really coming, and still haven't seen him since I live here, and it's been many years since I've seen him. So we've all changed, we've all gotten married and have kids, and anyway, I found out that he lives out there, and where he lives, the only way to get there is by plane. And so one of my friends from here flies back and forth periodically, and he remembered that I like guns, and he was having a little trouble with this gun. It wasn't shooting accurately, and it was a gift from his brother, so it means a lot to him, the actual gun. But he was having trouble shooting, and he hunts a lot for subsistence, caribou and moose. And so I said, yeah, I would love to work on this gun. And so he sent it in to me. It had a really cracked buttstock, and so it wasn't giving him much recoil relief. So we put a nice decelerator, red recoil pad on it. And the rifling on the end, for some reason, the crown was really destroyed. It looked like consistent with like maybe sitting on the floorboards of a dirty truck or something. He didn't remember that ever happening or anything, but nevertheless, the point was the crown was messed, and so when I shot it, I couldn't even keep it on the paper for a grouping. So we sent it into the gunsmith. It's a long story. It took way too long. It's been well over a year. It came back threaded as well as recrowned, which I didn't want it to be, so that's another story. But anyway, he's been gracious to not make too much of that. We just put a thread protector on there, put it on with red Loctite, so it shouldn't be a problem. It was all supposed to be bedded and fluted, not fluted, what is that called? Free floated, there we go. It was supposed to be floated because Ruger made these models pretty tight to the barrel. This is a very thin barrel. It's not a very long barrel. It's only 21.5 inches. 7mm mag really needs 24 plus inches to get the maximum out of it. But anyway, it wasn't free floated, so I wasn't sure how it would shoot. Finally, we have a day off here on a Saturday, beautiful day in the winter here, and got to shoot it. Well, the trigger is very heavy, and I am not used to that because I put custom triggers in all of mine, and I get used to that, and I don't like creep in a trigger. This has both. It has very strong trigger and lots of creep, so I had to do a lot of flinching to get this done, and I would pull the trigger and it would move the trigger, but it wouldn't go off. So that's really bad for me because I have a bad flinching problem when I get into these kind of situations, and it kicks you pretty good. So anyway, that all being said, I ended up being able to still group really well, and so we're really happy with that. We'll show you the targets in a little bit. So what he came up with was this scope. It came with this on. It's a target reticle, and you can see how long that scope is and big, and it had a very fine reticle, so very hard to see it in low light. And so I opted to change that for him, and so we went away from the big heavy scope. And I am a huge fan for hunting rifles of anything 400 yards and under to be these low profile, and so we put on a Vortex Venom, which it's not a very expensive scope. Very nice reticle in it. It's a lighted reticle, and it has covered caps for the turrets, which I like for hunting. Less chance of snow and ice getting in there and dust, and being able to bump it. That's a big thing. And then it has 6 settings of light that will light up the reticle. So if you want to see the light in the daytime, you need 6, but really what you really need it for is in those low light, and all you need is a 1. And in between each number, there's an off switch. So so the battery goes in here. I think it's a 2032. Anyway, this is a 1 to 6, and on 4 power, it's fine out to 200-300 yards, really. I mean, you could crank it up a little bit, but a moose is so big, and it has a nice fine dot, but the way the reticle's set in there, it's very easy to shoot offhand. And so yeah, we're really happy with it. I'll show you the targets. So this is the target at 80 yards. The wind's blowing a little bit there. It might be hard to read, but so we chronographed it, and at about 4 yards, the chronograph was set. It was running very consistently 27:32, 27:35, 27:37. Very, very good grouping, and that's why we see such a nice tight group that I was eventually able to get. And yes, there is a flyer out there to the left, and yes, that's annoying, to quote Paul Harrell. He often said that, and it is very annoying. It was the only flyer I had all day, but some of my groups were not as big. My very first group was not quite that good. My second group, then I adjusted the reticle, and the next group had opened up. I was starting to flinch a lot. The third group, I almost had it right, but I was still a little low, and it was a nice group, real nice group. Then I moved it up, and it came apart again, and then I shot my last group there, and got it real nice and tight. So it's shooting far better than what I can hold it. It's a very short barrel, so that's why we're not meeting the specs on the box. The box says 29, somewhere between 2,900 and 3,000. This short barrel will never get that, but it doesn't need it. What we're shooting is this Barnes TSX 160 grain. It's not the TTSX. It doesn't have the big hollow point with the blue tip in the end. This is just the tight hollow point, and it's the toughest bullet that Barnes makes that's expanding. So it's a solid copper. It will only expand to a certain point, and then it's solid the rest of the way. They are rated for a 99% retention of weight, and I have found that to be very true. This bullet will not expand at very slow velocities. If you want to shoot farther than maybe 300-400 yards, 500 yards with a 7mm mag with this round, I would suggest switching to the blue tip. If you still want to use a Barnes bullet, they will expand a little bit lower velocities, but really Barnes aren't a very good long distance hunting bullet, but they are probably the best expanding short range hunting bullet that you can buy. They get the job done. Okay, last of all, we're going to shoot 3 shells. I want to show you just some tips about loading. This is a controlled round feed, and you can tell that by this extra claw that comes up along the side of the bolt. And when the bullet comes up, it grabs it from both sides and takes it in, and then it controls it all the way in. And if you don't go in and latch it down, you can still pull the bullet back out, so that you don't take a chance at short stroking it like a push feed would. Push feeds are more smooth, but controlled round feed have their advantages and are often preferred in dangerous game or dangerous situations where your gun is actually protecting your life. So anyway, another tip: when you're putting this in, always run it back against the bolt before you drop it down in, and each one after that. This one holds 3. Just always bring them back and make sure the bullet is not hitting the front of the magazine sleeve there. That can really mess you up, especially with a controlled round feed. And controlled round feeds need to be run with authority. You get too gentle with them and they can not work as good. Controlled round feeds also get smoother with use, and a gun that's been used a long time, typically they get pretty smooth as long as you keep them clean and keep them oiled. So I'm going to take a couple shots right here. So in conclusion, I really enjoyed doing this project. I apologize to my friend that it took so long. It was out of my control. If we ever do something again, we will use a different gunsmith. But the end result was still pretty good and top-notch with the accuracy, which was the most important. But a couple things that we wanted to get done didn't get done. But I'm still struggling with that trigger a little bit. But it's always good to stretch yourself and be able to at least operate something that's factory and it hasn't been worked on. That's the problem with customizing and making everything that you use, every tool you use, customized to the way you like it. You really need to spend some time with uncustomized equipment and tools so that you can be prolific with them as well and not be completely handicapped if you don't have the perfect tool that you're used to using.